excited you're here again, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you everybody for coming this evening. My name's Holly, I'm the gallery manager here. And you both had a moment to meet Don Morgan. Don is the executive director of the Spirit Room. So thank you all for adventuring out to the Spirit Room this evening to celebrate Rolshoven and his show, Son of a Gun.
Probably all know it's been a number of years since I've done this old show, and the Spirit Room was kind enough to call me up and ask me to get off my butt and get one done again, so I agreed to do it. It's got the usual Western theme that seems to follow me wherever I go. One of the fun pieces of this originated with a cigar box that was made for the Pony Express, and my friend Walt Peel has the Blue Rider bar in Minot, North Dakota, so this first piece utilizes Cracker Jack tin horses from back in the day. I've got a little scene going on of the Old West inside. We've got the Blue Rider on the toy horse. The center medallion is an actual Pony Express medallion that came off of a McClellan saddle. Walters has a slightly different one because I only had one of those. But then after using that box and some photographs and leaving it intact, this is a piece that is made to simulate the illusion of movement as the rider turns, gets closer to you, and you use the background of the Navajo rug to trick your eyesight, your mind into thinking that there is movement going on. Another piece out of that series. This is an actual 1908 Holbrook Fort Apache stage line ledger bill of lading that I got, and it had the names of who the passengers were, that it was going from Holbrook to Fort Apache, and then they had not signed the driver's name in, so using that style of writing, I put my name as the driver, the stagecoach and the horses. Again, photographs of just the Blue Rider by himself. I'm tentatively going to try and work on a series of ledger drawings. I've got these old township maps from North Dakota that I think are fun, and I like to incorporate the titles of the township occasionally with the subject matter. This is Chicago Township, and this is about the meeting the mob is the title of meeting the in-laws or the family or this group of people that you haven't met before. So it's kind of tongue-in-cheek that way, but that is part of the story behind that. This is another piece out of the Pony Express cigar box. This is the inside flap, and you can see that these Pony Express riders leaving the station. You know, we've got the old lead toy Indians on the lookout for him. It's kind of a more post office slot is how it's designed to come across. We've got the title piece of Son of a Gun. And this all came about because of this mother locket that I found in Devil's Lake, but it has crossed pistols on it, and it amused me so much that some mother would have crossed pistols on a locket that this Son of a Gun thing was born out of that. I think it's a real strong piece. I love the red and yellow combination, the old shooting targets again, and bullseye shooting targets. I think the pieces have combined to make it just there's nothing I would change about the piece. I like what I found. This is a painting made by me after an artist who paints in an impressionist style, and I like to paint in that style. I like to paint in various different styles. It's Howard Post, not Howard Post, but it's after Parker, the artist that came up with the original one. This is a political piece about how bad politics, nobody can be civil, nobody can act like an adult. You've got Polecat Pete, Bad Bill Bruin, Sly Jim Crow. It's a target game, and it's just everybody's taking a shot. I just discussed it with where we are at in our national political level. And my God, there's got to be room for improvement. I grew up in Mandan, a big railroad town. I live in Grand Forks, also another big railroad town. I have uncles and cousins that work at the railroad. I thought these were just kind of fun pieces based on color, design, and you don't have to dust them because they're in the shadow box, which is sometimes with my work kind of a plus. I did a series of these travel mirrors. This is a 1950s era spaceship type thing. We have our little audibles. And those of you who are my vintage, you'll remember that. Danger, Will Robinson. And so these are a little bit interactive as well. And from that, we go over to the three pieces from the Broken Heart series. Fairly self-explanatory, designed to be not polished. They're the anguish of when you're going through heartbreak. Nails and screws and bits and pieces, and I think they're fairly self-explanatory. These are 3 photographs from the Taos, New Mexico area where my daughter lives. It's the same subject but presented in 3 different formats, and as you've seen with the simple cigar box, I like to find an object that I think is significant and then work it in different views and present it in different ways. So thank you all for coming, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ralph. Does anyone have questions for Ralph?
Cliff.
Oh yeah, you don't get to get away without questions.
I think I've explained it to everybody.
I have a question for you,
Sure.
though. So you were saying that the Western theme is pretty common to you.
Right.
Where would you cite that influence from?
Well, I grew up in Mandan, so we lived on the edge of town. We used to find arrowheads in the fields. My aunt and uncle had the land where Custer and his troops stayed on the night when the first day out on the way to the Little Bighorn. They camped on this oxbow, and then they went off to the Little Bighorn in the morning. I tried to buy the ranch a couple of years ago for my cousins, but they had rented it to somebody else for 30 years, and so they felt compelled to sell the whole property to them, so I did not get it, unfortunately. But you grew up in Mandan, you grew up in cowboy boots, and then I've been on the board of directors for the North Dakota Cowboy Hall of Fame for, I think, 18 years. It's just, I like cowboys and Indians.
Just one of those things that just is
one of those
ingrained in you, huh?
things.
My other question is, so a lot of your work is assemblage.
Well, I like to do things that are different and that are non-traditional. If I was going to become a serious painter, I think I would stop and take 4 years of instruction from somebody rather than be self-taught. But these things are of my own imagination, my own creation, and I think it's refreshing artwork because it's different and it's unique pretty much to me. So I think as an artist, that's always one of the most important things you can do, is do something that's creative that other people don't do.
I can certainly agree with that. I think that they are really unique, especially your Bad Hill piece. I like that.
You know, I had fun doing that. I saw that and I was thinking, what am I going to do with it? And it was in such nice shape. You know, I think I had to pay $60 or $70 for the thing, but I hadn't made I had kind of laid out Son of a Gun prior to that, but it wasn't in the finished edition. And I got that, and both of these target pieces, I just knew that I could come up with something if I really put my brain to it. And so that was an exercise in, you know, how does this piece speak to me? And you read these inappropriate names of Polecat Pete, Bad Bill Bruin, Sly Jim Crow, and it just, in my mind went, it's dirty politics. It's just, you know, that's what it is. And so, yeah, you know, then I tried to find some ducks that I could put up on there. I found some brown floating ones that you put in the bathtub, but that didn't look right. And so I just cut out my own ducks. And then I bought a train set that had these yellow wheels, so I thought, well, those would be perfect for the rollers aspect of the assembly thing. That is, you know, it's a carnival target type game. And it just, you know, you've got money plus Bad Bill equals division. If you look at these pieces, that's what these 4 things say. Money plus you know, bad people like that equals a divided country.
I didn't even notice that. That's a nice little touch.
So, I mean, all of these things have numeric references or there's subliminal messages on these pieces. So, but sometimes I let people figure that out on their own. Sometimes I tell them.
Do you find your job influences your artwork at all, or?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, being an investigator, it's, you're always trying to solve things, you're trying to figure things out. And a lot of these pieces look like they should be relatively simple, but there's a lot of engineering that goes into making them look the way you want without having 6 nails holding that pistol onto that
How is
board.
that held on there?
It was difficult. It took me a long time to figure out how I was gonna get that mounted and to do it so it's just looks like it's floating there. I had to do some disassembly of the pistol, had to screw in from the back, and, you know, it was a complicated process, and you had to be exactly precise on where those screw holes were coming through, but, so drop that one.
First thing I'm dropping, that's it. At least you weren't lazy about it. I mean, you could just hot glued it on there, but like that'll hold.
Well,
Or caulking.
you know, and I thought about gluing it on top of screwing it, but, I mean, it transported down here pretty well. I don't know that I would ship it cross-country, just because if somebody drop kicks it, you know, it
Yeah.
could be fixed, but it may need to be fixed if somebody's too rough with it, you know.
I mean, it felt pretty good when I picked it up to hang it on the wall, but I could certainly see how, you know, dropping that on the floor might be the end of it.
Well, I can fix most things, but yeah, it's a cute piece.
So when do you work on these?
Well, for about the past 10 years, I have probably only gotten a couple pieces of artwork done a year just because of work being so busy. I've done about 3 or 4 of the ledger drawings as I had time. If you're working 60 hours a week and you're on the road, there just isn't time to do it, and that's why I haven't done a solo show. I am probably looking towards retirement in a couple of years, and at that point I will pursue art again as a career application, hobby, whatever you want to refer to it as. But so these are pieces that mostly have not been shown before. Some may be from 10 years ago. You've seen the dates on most of them, but you know, if you can just get at least 2 or 3 pieces done a year, you're keeping your brush wet, and that's part of it. I came up with a painting that I really liked for the Midwestern show, kind of in a Fritz shoulder style, but I think the end result is really good, but it took me about 3 or 4 times as long to paint it as it would have been had I painted it 15 years ago. You know, you have to get back into that routine of painting, and that's something that, you know, it's not like falling off a horse. You lose some of your skills if you don't use them. So at least that's for me, maybe.
At least some of your speed, if nothing else.
Yeah, certainly lose some of your speed, so.
So do you have a studio in your home?
Yeah, I've got a pretty good-sized studio in the house, and we have everything from canvases to I have racks of, you know, containers that contain toys, trinkets, you know, oil paints, acrylic paints, canvases, you know, globes, ducks, cowboys, trucks, cars, boats. I mean, Carson, when he was little, used to sit in there, and I have a little file like the library card drawers, and he would entertain himself as I was working in the studio by just pulling out the different drawers, and he'd find a drawer that had something that interested him, and he would sit and play with that, and then he'd maybe put that back, and then he'd take out a different drawer, and he would sit and play with those, and he would arrange things on the floor as I'm doing my arrangements on things, and so he's 17, so the art bug hasn't kicked in, but I'm hoping that subliminally at some point it will. So.
Do you have friends that give you things, little trinkets, and say, hey, you should put this into one?
Yeah, occasionally people do show up with stuff because they do know what I look for. Currently, I am looking for some more 50s space toys, either missiles, airplanes, robots. I've got a couple of space-themed pieces that I'm trying to work on that I've got some boards like this. And I also could use some more Lone Ranger things. I've got a nice Lone Ranger metal target piece that I'm currently trying to still figure out what I'm going to do with that, but it'll be a cool piece.
Excellent. I just saw a Lone Ranger piece in an antique store a couple days ago. It was real tiny, small. Now I'll have to keep my eyes open.
So, yeah, but rockets, I need some rockets, everybody.
You put out your shopping
Spaceships,
list.
aliens, you know, I could use a drawer full of those because I've got a big piece of them trying to create with that, so.
Great.
So Ross, I'd like to know how much you paid for the cigar box that you ripped apart.
I am, you know, I'm trying to remember where I got that at. I may have bought this at one of the auctions in Arizona. Just, I probably paid about 40 or 50 bucks is all, but it was a nice piece. The graphics were so good, and I just, when I saw it, I knew that it was something that I could turn into multiple pieces of art, and that, you know, you have to buy those things when you see them because you just, now you see them, now you don't. So that's part of the pulling the trigger when you're going, what the heck am I gonna do with this?
Ross, I've always known you as a collector. I remember you collecting chairs in '78. Chairs and just things that he's doing what? He's collecting what? You unload anything ever? And how do you decide what to rid yourself of?
Well, my house in Arizona will help me sell some things, I think, because I want to get out of here for the winter. So but yeah, I mean, I probably own 70 boats. I mean, I've sold 2 so far this spring on a roll. I'm able to sell about 10 or 15 more this summer. I have various other collections that are significant, and museums like to borrow things from me, so it's not all bad.
Sounds exciting.
So,
Oh. Well, thank you again so much for putting this on for us.
well, hopefully we'll get some traffic through, but thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
absolutely. Thank you.